Hi guys, alright, we're here today with an Access Virus TI2. I found this at a pawn shop in Las Vegas and rescued it. It has no knobs. It's got a couple of, you know, some paint missing here, some paint missing here. I don't know how well you can see, but the screen has some issues as well that I want to try and resolve. Obviously, we have the issue with the knobs. There's some sticky goo on the side here. You know, really just cosmetic issues. I've already tested this unit thoroughly. All the outputs work. It's running the latest operating system. I've updated the operating system. The battery works. I don't know how old it is though, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it with a 2032. Really what I want to do is get this top plate off and clean it. I want to be able to remove the screen as well and try to I'm going to try and buff out just some scratches there and give that a better look. It's obviously not going to be a perfect unit, but we always like to give, you know, whatever we're working on its best shot at a second life, especially when it's something as precious as this. So let's dig in. I'm going to go ahead and just flip her over and you know, take some screws out and get to work here. So I'm actually going to tilt it on its side like this and get these 6 bottom screws out and then go from there. Alright, so this bottom plate should just pop right out now. Yeah, and there we go. In order to properly clean this side, I gotta get this panel board out, otherwise I can't clean it properly. And I also want to take care of this. We got a little dent here that I'll take care of. So nothing too serious, but we just don't want any of the sensitive components in the way. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to get our anti-static bags for both the panel board. We're already working on an anti-static mat, so we're good there. This is grounded. So I know from experience you don't have to undo all these screws, but I don't remember which ones you have to undo and which ones you don't. And before we get there, let's just go ahead and swap this battery out. So let's get our little, we got a screwdriver we really like for this job. This one here. And I'm just going to get it started. A little bit of a pain. There we go. And then we're going to just needle nose pliers and pull them out. And we're quickly going to slap the new one in. Just like that. Let's start with these 4 and see what happens. Because I know not all of them have to come out. Some of them are for, I think these 4 are for the screen and they want to stay. So we just do 1, 2, 3, 4. I might need to do this screw in the middle. Let's get this one. Yeah, there we go. It's gonna lift right out now. And there's, yeah, pins out right there. So let's get that out of the way. Unfortunately, I believe I've got to take the back out. Let's first go ahead and protect this part. And let's flip her around. Should be a series of screws on the back here. Yep, there we go. Don't fall. It fell. That's okay. Yeah, this is what we wanted. We wanted to take these out together. There we go. Okay, those are packaged up nicely, and I'm just going to get them out of the way now. And now we're going to get our panel board out. And I think some of these have to come out, but some of them can stay, and like this one can stay. Let's see. I know this one's got to come out. All right. Well, I don't know what my normal pieces of wood are, but I got these other two that will do the job just fine. I just don't want to put pressure on the board when there's only one or two things left holding it in. Like I said, I know this one's got to come out. Once you get it loose, you can just do this with your hands. I'm going to guess all three of these have to come out and this one can stay. All right, let's see. Should lift right out now. Yep. Oh, nice. This one has a pot plate on it. I've seen these with and without the pot plate. Mine doesn't have this plate, but this pot plates are super nice. They keep the pots from wobbling, so you'll never have a wobbly one. They're typically, I mean, they realistically never need to be replaced. This actually is, yeah, the different runs are all different. The ones that I've seen don't have this four um, points on them. It's just that one. Okay, so got a little corrosion there. That's not all that uncommon. I'll take care of that and seal that up. And yeah, I don't know how you can see it, but the screen's just kind of scratched. I just really want to clean both sides of it, and I want to try and make that look nice. I've got to deal with this corrosion though. We can't let that go. And there's an easy fix for it. I'm just going to take a little CLR. I've got this little syringe guy. I just want to get a little bit on there and let it sit. All right, spit the rest of that out and clean our syringe. And then let's get a little brush. It's funny how you start out with one idea and end up getting into some other stuff, but that's okay. You'll see we got most of it. Yeah, it's nice and black now. It's not orange anymore. All right, so we're back here after the first round of cleaning of this corrosion that somehow manifested around the LCD on this unit. We got a good bit of it off, but it's not enough. We need to really get all of this out, and we need to reseal it so that 10 years down the road, the user doesn't have the same problem that this one had when it came in. So, yeah, let's just put a little piece of cardboard down. Whoops. I dropped my cardboard. Just to protect my workspace here. This is a anti-static mat. I don't want to mess it up. So, we've already used chemicals. I believe the next thing that we should do is sandpaper. That's really, I was thinking about this and doing a little research, and yeah, we want to use some this is 120. Let's see if I have some 200. I mean, I have everything, but let's see what I have handy here. I think I've got some 200 that's handy somewhere. 220. So we've got 220 and we've got 120. Let's see where the 220 gets us, and if we need to, we'll then move to the 120 if we're not getting anywhere. So I'm just going to wipe off this front plate, make sure we don't have any residual rust here, which we don't. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is just clean with alcohol. That's the best way to just wrap this up and get it ready for paint. Is to just clean it with some alcohol. And in this case, I'm going to use 90-10. And I'm just going to use plenty of it. It's going to be fine. And this is really just to get up the remaining dust and reveal if we have anything else we need to touch up. Alright guys, we're back with the Virus TI2 faceplate here. Yeah, just picking up where we left off. You know, we had cleaned the corrosion away with chemical, and then what was left we used sandpaper to get rid of, and then cleaned with alcohol in preparation for some Rust-Oleum crystal clear enamel to coat it with. We'll do a few coats. I don't usually spray paint inside the house, but in this particular case I'm going to. First of all, it's super hot outside, and yeah, it's just this little area we can splash. Now I'm just putting some tape over these light pipes. You know, as I mentioned before, we don't want to sell a TI2, which is not cheap, with a problem that we know about, especially one that we can fix. So, all right, here we go. So I'm just gonna practice real quick over here, make sure I get my flow right. Yeah, that's about what I expected. So here we go, just like that. I don't want to do too much. It's just the first coat. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to lift it up. I don't want anything on the front sticking to the cardboard and making a mess of things. I should have actually done that from the beginning. And we'll wait a few. I'm just going to flip it over and make sure there's, well, I can take a look now, actually, make sure nothing's bleeding through the bottom. But I didn't do anything. Yeah, I didn't do any kind of thick layer that would bleed in. So let that dry, and we'll probably do 3 coats, just to be safe. All right, guys, it's been about 15-20 minutes. We're going to do our next coat here. It's dry to the touch. We'll let that roll and come back and do one more. That'll be pretty good. So, here we go. Well, that's a good layer. I'm just going to make sure I got nothing going on the bottom again. Nothing dripping. Perfect. Yep, good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my tape. All right, we're back with the TI2, and it's the next day here. And we've let our Rust-Oleum enamel dry over the areas that we've cleaned the corrosion from. So this should be good going forward. There should be no more issues here. This is adhesive residue and paper, and it's not going to come off with that alcohol. I just dumped some, this is literally just from my H-E-B or Walgreens or whatever. And I'm just going to flip this up and just rub that glue right off. It might get a little bit, yeah, see it starts to get a little silver with it. There's one gone, the other one's more stubborn. There it goes. Yeah, you would have never gotten that off that alcohol. Like I said, it gets a little bit of finish, but it's nothing. I'm actually going to clean the rest of the face here with alcohol too, and the rest of the side. I got a little bent metal here and a little bent metal here. The proper thing to do is take this back piece off, and I want to show you how to fix bent metal safely. It can be done. Not everything can be fixed, but what we got here can be fixed. Might be a little overkill on the extension, but I want to get in there. This is going to come right out now. Like I said, it has some play in it. But you see it can kind of be like this, or it can be like that, or it can be like that. I'm just going to line it back up to where that, right there, where that metal, there's a mark there. Just wanted to get it out of the way. Actually, I want to clean this too. I haven't cleaned this yet. So the reason I took those off is because I want to get these just really minor little bends here. And I want to show you how to safely do this with metal that's got like finish on it. There's really only one way that I know of. Let me get a shirt I don't care about. So what you want to do, you get a pair of pliers, you want to wrap in cloth pretty thickly, like 4 or 5 layers, the metal, and then now I can kind of bend that back out slowly. This metal is really strong, so I don't know what we're going to get out of this. We might not get very far. That's a little bit better. At least it's not deformed now. If you were to put this in a rack mount, you're not going to have issues with fitment. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. This one needs to go in. Yeah, nice and straight now. I mean, it's not perfect. This one I don't think I can get perfect. It's curled a little bit. Let's try and fix the curl. I mean, I would just really put a lot of pressure on this. Yeah, I mean, I would need like a press to fix that. That's not happening. At any rate, it's good enough now that if they were to mount this in a rack mount or something like that, they're not going to have any issues with it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back plate back on. And I'm just going to line up. I don't know if you can see there's a line here of where it used to be. And that's what you really want to do. There we go. Even Steven, just the way it was. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. Now, this is the one I'm going to wash this in the sink first and just get it clean. And then we'll see what it looks like. Soap and water with a toothbrush, and then we'll just see what we got left. Now I'm hoping that soap and water are good enough and I can just call it a day. But I don't think that's the case. I think this one's got some scratching on it. The thing is though, do I buff it? Buffing can be dangerous because buffing can actually, if you do it improperly, it can actually leave marks on it. I'm just drying this off. I want to see what we look like now. Oh, yeah, we've got issues. All right. So yeah, this part's, I'm gonna risk polishing it. If I do it right, it's gonna look brand new. So I'm gonna get some Scratch Doctor. This is plastic finish, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of this on my polishing wheel here. Just wrap it around. I don't want it flying off everywhere when I spin this, which it will do. I just covered the, it's barely damp. Just enough to hopefully clean some of this stuff off here. So think of this like the stuff you clean a glass stovetop with. Whoops, it's got a little bit of grit to it. Very fine now. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to put too much pressure on it. You don't want to go too fast because then you're going to heat this up and you're going to burn the plastic, and that's it. It's you're gonna ruin it. So you gotta just moderate speed. Now we're just gonna buff it out and see what we get. I think it's, and it looks pretty good to be honest, but let's see. Oh yeah, that's so much better. Oh yeah, it's almost perfect. I got a little fingerprint on the backside here. I'm glad I did this because this is really making a difference. I don't know if you can see, but it really got, I mean, it's not perfect, but it got rid of the mark that we had up here, and it's really smoothed things out. I'm going to go one more because that went so well. And I still have, I'm just going to do a tiny little bit more of this stuff. I mean, I'm literally talking about like just that. Like, I don't want to use a lot of it. And I just want to spread that little pea-sized amount out around the whole thing. All right, yeah. So much better. I don't know how well you can see it. Actually, like off camera. It's got a little bit of tiny scratching up here. It might just be fiber from the cloth, actually. It is, yeah. Yeah, look at that. Just about brand new. Much, much, much better. That is what New Finish Scratch Doctor and a little bit of polishing wheel and a drill will do for you in a situation like this. So, let's go ahead and get our screen. That's the first thing we want to do. And we definitely want to make sure. Now, there's nothing behind it here. Yeah, perfect. So we're going to drop that in place. You just want to make absolutely sure there's no lint or dust or any type of streaking or anything on the back of this, because once it's put together, it's put together, you know. You're not getting there. You're not getting back in there. So don't over tighten this bolt. Just get it so it's just snug. Yeah, there we go. Because the screen's also going to be right up on it, so double check, make sure you're in good shape, which we are. And let's go ahead and start getting this thing back together. And I'm going to lift it up because we need to be able to drop in the panel board without the potentiometers pushing, you know, they need room to live below the faceplate there. Okay, so we ought to just be able to, I'm actually going to grab this one bolt here and just like that. She fits right in there perfectly. So if you remember, we had our four, I don't know what else to call them. I'm going to call them standoff bolts, pegs, or whatever. We had four of these, and these are so that you can mount the main board. And let's just get these in first. First, I'm just going to twist with my hands, and then we're going to tighten. You never want to over tighten, but you don't want to under tighten either. So, all right, let's get the rest of our screws in. All right, and we've got 5 left over, which is exactly the right amount of screws left over for our main board. However, I think before we seat the main board, we want to seat this back plate. I'm going to flip this around. All right, so we've got everything living inside of a protective bubble here. which is what we want, but we want to seat this before we put our board in. Okay, so now we're ready to seat our main board, and you know, it's wrapped in a static anti-static bag, and this is an anti-static mat, so I have no concerns, but otherwise you may want to ground yourself before you handle this board. And even then, you want to handle it with care. Just don't touch any of the components. So the thing we need to do, this connector here just needs to line up with those pins. So I'm going to start there. That's going to be my main focus. Okay, and then we can tuck our cable down in there the way it was. It's the way it was naturally there. Now that cable's longer, so because you might want to put this into a rack mount. At which point you can take this back plate and have it come out of the bottom of the unit instead of the back. That way when you rack mount it, you're not taking up extra space. All your cables can just come out of the back. They're not going to come out of what would be the top once it's rack mounted. Take up extra rack spaces. Be really careful with this one. You're just surrounded by capacitors. So, all right. So that's our main board back in. These sides are ever so slightly angled that way, so the tip goes into the front, the bottom. All right, guys, so we're all back together here, and we just have our one final problem remaining, which is the knob situation. So, you know, I have TI2 knobs in stock, OEM ones. They're really hard to come by. And while I do have enough to do this unit, it would pretty much wipe out my supply. And number one, I'd like to keep them in stock so people that need them can buy them. And it's just a smarter financial decision from my point of view. You know, it's this business, right? So we have to be smart. We want to be able to keep doing this. So what I do have and what I can do, I have OEM knobs from the original manufacturer that are just a slightly different color that I have a lot more of. And so I'm going to use those, and they still are going to look nice with the unit. They're darker than the TI2 knob, which was a lighter gray. So these more closely match the darkness on the LCD here, but they're still OEM size, shape, feel, everything. They're just a different color. So yeah, it just makes the most sense to use these. All right, guys, so there we go. We've got all our knobs in place. Like I said, they're a little darker than the standard TI2 knob, but they're still OEM size, shape, feel, soft touch, and they look right at home with the unit. They match nicely with this dark on the LCD bezel here, as well as with the darker grays and the overall design. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. You know, it had no knobs to begin with, and you know, we uncovered some corrosion here. We repaired some bends in the frame. You know, we polished this LCD bezel to get rid of all the scratches that were on it. Updated the operating system, put in a new battery. And yeah, we've given this thing a really good shot at its second life here. So I just want to give it a quick test. Let me snag the power supply. It's in the other room over here. And there we go. Beautiful. So yeah, these don't have a power button, but you can put them to sleep by holding these two. That's how you turn it off and on. Now it just sleeps. I just put mine on a rack and use the rack switch to flip it off and on. All right, guys, that's it. Yeah, really happy with the way this came out. I'm going to go ahead and list it for sale on my website at captainblacks.app. These usually go pretty quickly, but I'm launching a new website and it's all about getting traffic there. So, on Reverb, they typically sell within a couple of days. So I don't know how quickly it'll go on my website, but I'm going to put it up there for a fair price. Considering we've got a couple of dings here and there, it'll be one of the more affordable TI2s on the market. But also, yeah, I mean, it's been well looked over and investigated, and everything's been tested and checked out. So, yeah, guys, I hope you'll check it out at captainblacks.app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.